In the months of February and March, we have been bombarded by huge amount of game releases from AAA developers. This brings as a side effect that indie games that have come out during this time pass under the radar. As I was looking for games to play and review, I kept a close eye on the indie game scene and found a little gem that I want to share today. An indie game with a charming pixel art style, some incredible music, and a very sound platforming gameplay offering. Hi everyone, my name is Jeremy and this is my non-spoiler review for Inukari Shades of Deception for the Nintendo Switch. Inukari Shades of Deception follows the story of the nature goddess Inukari, who has been summoned to our world because there is some form of evil that is affecting nature, the animals, and the other gods or spirits. You must find out what is happening and stop this evil from harming nature. The story of Inukari is presented only through dialogues between characters that happen during the beginning of the game and before and after boss fights. As these dialogues unfold, Inukari starts to piece together what is happening and follows the clues to where the evil and contamination have originated. In this regard, Inukari does a really good job of presenting its interesting world and characters. As I watched the different gods and spirits become cleansed and speak to Inukari, I got really intrigued to know more of the lore of this world. Even though the game is not story or lore heavy, it is still good to see that there is potential for possible sequels that could lean more on the lore of this world. I do have to point out that the dialogue has a few grammatical errors that at times make it a little bit hard to read. In regards to the visual, Inukari features pixel art visuals that give the game a retro feel. The different worlds feature some good looking backgrounds that create a scenery that is visually pleasing. Each of the worlds feels distinct, the enemies are well designed. However, one thing I must point out, and I will elaborate more later on, is that the frame rate of this game is very unstable. It is not so bad that it will make you put the game down, but it is bad enough to be noticeable and for it to be visually bothersome when playing. In what concerns to the music of the game, Inukari features 8-bit music to complement the pixel art retro look of the game. And I have to say, the music in this game is excellent. Each world features different tracks that help give each world a distinct feel. The music in this game conveys a sense of urgency that really helps complement the gameplay and it helps keep the player immersed in the game. So let's talk about the gameplay of Inukari. Inukari is a 2D pixel art indie platformer. The game features 3 worlds. Each world is divided in 8 continuous levels. At the half point of the world, you will fight a mini boss, and at the end of the world, you fight the main boss. In this game, you can jump, crouch, stick to walls, attack, and even backstep. In terms of the feel of the gameplay, the main character's jumping feels floaty, and there isn't wind up when you start running. She runs fast always. This gives the game a particular feel that favors horizontal platforming and jumping across big distances. However, the game does feature a lot of verticality and it gives the stages a good variety so it doesn't feel like you're running from left to right all the time. The game felt at its best when I was playing fast and trying almost to not stop at all. When you do this, the game has a certain rhythm that feels good and distinct from your average platformer. You have 5 hit points and you have around 5 lives. Each time you die, you go back to a checkpoint, and there are quite a few of them throughout the stages. However, as soon as you get a game over, you must start the world all over again. In the stages, you will find coins and you will get points for picking them up and killing enemies. After a certain amount of points, the game will give you a life. Enemies usually die of 1 hit and others die of 2 hits. Mini bosses and main bosses have multiple hit points and will require you to react fast. The boss fights are usually very short because of how fast you and the boss take damage, and this is especially true with the mini bosses who have almost the same amount of HP as you. As you progress through the game, you get 2 upgrades that add more attack alternatives and more mobility to the gameplay. In regards to your hit points, you can only recover them when you cross from one stage to the next. The game does feature an easy mode that adds hearts throughout the stage so that you can recover HP as you play. Inukari is a short game. You should be able to finish the game in an hour or 2 depending on your skill level. After finishing the game, there are some extra game modes that you can unlock to get more out of the game. So let's talk about the strengths and weaknesses of this game. Let's start with the weaknesses, with the cons. First of all, I had a serious problem with precision platforming. As I was explaining before, Inukari's jumping is floaty and fast. Because of this, it is very difficult to do some precise movements. However, for most of the game, this isn't a problem because the game platforms are big and never require extremely precise movement, except for the second world. The second world of this game features some platforming sections that require a lot of precision, and that, from my perspective, felt like it didn't showcase the strong points of this game. It was bothersome and it just interrupted what was up until that point a very enjoyable experience. This is by no means a deal breaker, but it was bothersome to see the game require precision platforming when the jumping and physics of the game don't lend themselves to that. The second con of this game was regarding the unbalanced boss fights. Boss attack patterns were simple but very fast, and some of them were hard to follow because of how fast the gameplay moves. At times, I was scrambling to kill the boss before they killed me without completely understanding how to dodge their attacks. In general, all boss fights in this game are extremely short because of these factors, and it just made the boss fights feel either too easy or awkward. And last but not least, this game has a frame rate problem. In any game, frame rate is important, but this is especially true for platformers. Sadly, Inukari suffers from very unstable frame rates. For some reason, this didn't affect my gameplay experience in the sense that the game was still moving at a frame rate that didn't completely break the pacing of the gameplay. However, it did bother me visually. The mix of the pixel art style with the unstable frame rate made for a very visually uncomfortable experience. So let's talk about the strengths of this game. First of all, the visuals. The pixel art style and the color schemes give this game a lot of charm, and it was visually pleasing throughout the entire game. The other strong point of this game was the music. The music was incredible from beginning to end. The 8-bit music was composed in a way that really captures the setting of the stage and the feel of the gameplay simultaneously, and it really helped to keep me engaged in the gameplay throughout. And third but not least, the gameplay. But specifically, the gameplay once you reach the third world with all of the upgrades. As I was playing the game, I noticed that each world gives the player a very different experience. The first world was very basic. The second focused way too much on precision platforming. But the third world was where the game truly found its rhythm and feel. By the time you reach the third world, your character will have the double jump. The mix of the music, the level design, and the feel of the gameplay, once you have the double jump, felt perfect for the type of platforming this game was going for. In conclusion, Inukari Shades of Deception sets out to give the player a different type of platforming experience. The game presents an interesting world and characters that serve as the backdrop of a fast and fun platforming experience with lots of verticality and platforming challenges with some nice change of pacing offered mainly by the bosses that are scattered throughout the different worlds. However, unstable frame rate, some unnecessary precision platforming segments, and some unbalanced boss fights hinder what is otherwise a sound platforming game. Where Inukari truly showcases what it sets out to offer is in its final world, where the gameplay, visuals, and music come together, closing off the game with a high note. For its charming pixel visuals, incredible music, and sound gameplay, I recommend Inukari. So that's gonna be it for my non-spoiler review of Inukari. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Hi everyone, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our content.